from Madajan's Herbals, and tonight we're going to do some cooking in the fireplace. We're going to make dessert. So what we're making is we're going to make some mulled cider, and then we're going to make some pear crisp. So I want to start with the cider. So I've got my cast iron kettle here, and I've got mulling spices. Now the mulling spices are allspice and clove and ginger and cinnamon and orange. And there, if you can see it, there's some right there. Now, what I'd like to do is put it in a tea strainer, because then we don't have the herbs hanging around in the drink, kind of like with tea. So I'm going to go ahead and put about 2 tablespoons of mulling spices in here. This is not my favorite tea strainer. It is, but it'll work. Okay, so now I'm going to put that in here. And then I've got apple cider, which is right here. And I've got cranberry juice. So we're going to put about 2/3 of the apple cider, and 1/3 of the cranberry. And then we're going to close the kettle. Now you could put this in like a Dutch oven pot if you wanted to, but I found that when I have done that, I get ashes in it, so I like to have it covered. And you could put the cover on your Dutch oven. Okay, now I'm going to turn the camera so you can see the fireplace. Now, actually, we're going to even move it a little bit closer. Now, I don't know how well you can see this, but right here is a crane. It's a piece of metal that is attached to the bricks here and here, and then it has the long arm right here. And that is what I'm going to put the kettle on. There you go. And then I'm going to move it over closer to the fire, see if it'll stay. Whoa! Put the wood back on. Now the other things that I have here is, sorry for the seasickness here, but this is called the gypsy stove. And this is also cast iron, and you can build a fire under it. So I can push the grate back, build a fire under it, and then I can put saucepans. As you see, there's a saucepan right there on it, and cook anything that I would want, that I would cook on my stovetop. And it is the other things that I have, because I like my fireplace. I've got the normal sticks that you make hot dogs on, but I've also got a popcorn popper and a sandwich maker. So you can make grilled sandwiches, you can make French toast, just like you would hot dogs. So I use the fireplace quite a bit in the wintertime. So the other thing is you've got 2 kinds of pans that you can use. This one is a spider. Now my original plan today was to have 1 pear crisp already cooked so that I could show you what it looked like coming out of the fire. However, it's going to look just like it looks like when it went in, and things got a little crazy here today, so I didn't get the first one made. So we're going to go ahead and make it and put it in, and then when it comes out, I'll take a picture of it and post it. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make the topping. And you make the topping with butter, brown sugar, and oatmeal. Now I have this handy little gadget. This is what it looks like. And it's a chopper. But it's not real sharp, so it's not going to cut vegetables or anything, but it's really good with avocados to make guacamole. It is good with butter to make topping like this. The only place you can find them are in antique stores. So if you go out antiquing, take a look for it. I tell you what, this is an amazing kind of little thing. So this is a big pan that I'm using. Oh, I was going to tell you about the pans. We talked about cast iron before. And if you're cooking in the fire and you're using coals as opposed to hanging it on a crane, you want to use a spider. The spider has feet. Okay? So that means you can put coals on the bottom as well as coals on the top. A spider generally always has a flat top because then the coals can sit on top of it. Now, as you can see, I use this frequently. So we're going to take the butter, and because this is a pretty good sized pan, I'm going to use a half a cup of butter. Now, for some things, I'm really good at measuring. For others, not so much. And this is one of those not so much. It is, you'll know it when it looks right. So we're going to put the butter in. If you are a baker, my mother used to save these. She put them in the refrigerator, and then when it said to grease your cookie sheets, this is what she would use. And I kind of got out of the habit of doing that, mostly because I don't bake very much. It is unfortunate, but I am the only person here, so generally, and so if I am baking, I am eating it all. So I don't typically do that. All right. So we've got oatmeal. Now, I usually use the quick oats for stuff like this. It is, then it is easier for it to absorb the butter and all the other fun stuff. So I am going to put I'd say that was probably about 2 cups. And brown sugar. Now, when my kids were little, I was a stay-at-home mom. And so we did our breakfasts backwards. They had a hot breakfast before they went to school. So they had oatmeal or eggs, toad in the hole, pancakes, although not very often pancakes. That's about 2 cups of brown sugar every day before they went to school. Some days, and then they would have on the weekends when it was, supposed to be my day off as well, that's when they got their cold cereal. So cold cereal for them was a treat versus the wonderful hot breakfasts. It is, now we're going to go ahead and cut the butter into all of this, and it's going to take me a few minutes. But it is, and I suppose I could use a mixer, but I generally don't. I generally will just go ahead and do it by hand. One of the things that they used to like having for breakfast was a pear crisp. It is, it had the same thing in it that the oatmeal did, just a little more fruit and a little less oatmeal. But they had, it made sense to me that this was a great breakfast, and so they would periodically. This year, if you saw the Not Magic that we did up in Oso, where I was camping with my family, we made this, my daughter made this in the fire at the camp. Now the funny thing about this is when the kids were really little, we lived in Marysville, and we had 2 pear trees. Now, my mother says, and I think that I've noticed it in my trees as well, that usually fruit trees will have a bumper crop, and then they will have a smaller crop the next year, and go back and forth. Nobody told those pear trees that. They were giant pear trees, and we had pears coming out of our ears. And as a matter of fact, I was the lady. I was on the corner. There was a boulevard stop. This is 40 years ago, so kind of different times. But if I happened to be in my yard and somebody drove up to the boulevard stop, I popped over the fence with a bag of pears and said, "Here, have some pears." I don't think at that time the food banks were accepting garden produce. They do now, so if you happen to have a bumper crop of something next summer and you can't use it all, take it to the food bank. It is, they are always appreciative of that. But we had so many pears. I canned pears. I made pear jelly. I made pear syrup. And I made applesauce out of pears. Now, I didn't think it was a secret. I mean, but the kids looked at it, saw it, and figured it was applesauce. So when one of my daughters got married and moved out, she started complaining to me, and she was up in Alaska, and I was here in Washington, and she started complaining to me that applesauce doesn't taste the same anymore, that it's not anywhere as good as what it used to be when she was growing up. And I had to laugh at her, and I said, "Molly, you never had applesauce growing up." She says, "Mom, we had it all the time." "No, you had pear sauce." And she ended up, a little bit later, finding a can of pear sauce. She bought it, called me, and she says, "Oh my God, you're right, Mom. I love pear sauce, but the applesauce just isn't very good." The pears make a much sweeter sauce, even if you don't put anything, any sweetener in it. The pears are sweeter than the applesauce. And I don't can like I used to anymore because, again, there's only me. And so I had to go buy pears to make this. But it's going to be good nonetheless. Okay, so we've got it all set up. See? There you go. It's all mixed up. And we're going to set this aside. Now we're going to open up the pears. Now when I wash my cast iron, after I wash it and dry it, I'll put a coating of olive oil on it. So I don't need to add any additional olive oil. But you, if you don't do that, you may want to. Okay, now we're just going to make a mess here. All right, now what I've got here is a bowl and a colander, or as my son calls it, the holy pan. And we're going to drain the pears. Now, this actually makes a really nice sweet drink, if that's something that you would like. it also, if you remember a couple months ago, we made jelly from juice. You can make jelly from this as well. You can use it as the liquid in a fruit bread, a quick bread. You can use it with muffins. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to throw it out because there's so many things that you can do with it. Okay, so I bought pear halves. Now the reason I bought pear halves was because the sliced pears were like $2 more for the can, and that made no sense to me. So I said, "That's it. We're just going to do the halves." And to be honest, when I can, I usually can in halves as well. Well, we just had a little bit fire thing going on, so I'm going to go tend the fire, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here I am back. Now we're going to take the crust. So let me move the juice out so we don't tip it over and make a mess. And this is what we've got. So one of my kids is coming over in about half an hour for dessert. And because this would be a lot for me to eat. So what we're going to do is go ahead and put the topping on it. You want to cover it pretty well. Now I didn't use all of this, so what I will do is I will put it in a baggie and put it in my fridge, and then we'll have it, maybe put a streusel top on some muffins or something of that nature, or we'll make another one of these. Okay, we're going to move this again so you can see what I'm doing, okay? So, actually, I'm going to hold on because I'm going to make it smaller. Whoops. I think one day when I grow up, if we continue doing these, I'm going to figure out a camera person, and then it'll be a little bit easier. Okay, so this puts you down a little bit closer to the fire so you can see exactly what we're going to do. So the first thing that we're going to do is take some of these coals and bring them here. Okay, and then we're going to take the pan, which actually is pretty heavy, and put them on the coals. Okay, and then we're going to take more of the coals and put them on the top. Okay, and there we've got it. In about 45 minutes, we'll have dessert. And you'll get a picture of what it is. It is, I enjoy doing this. And matter of fact, what I'm probably going to do as soon as I hang up is go get a smaller pan and put some potatoes in it. I'm going to have some potatoes after dessert because I really, really like potatoes that are roasted in the fireplace. And for that, what I do is I poke holes in the potatoes, and I will rub it with olive oil and put some salt on it, and then do the same thing, put the coals underneath and on top, and that takes about an hour to get them cooked, depending upon the size of the potato. I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm not sure what we're going to do on Wednesday, but we'll figure it out, and we'll see you on Wednesday. So thank you very much for joining me, and come on into the store, say hello, or I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.